This condo building is uninsurable. Why your resale value just vanished. For 19 years, a mid-rise condominium in Etobicoke had been known for having some of the lowest condo fees in the neighborhood. Owners said it the way people brag about a good doctor. $650 a month for a two-bedroom, while comparable buildings nearby charged $900 or even $1,000. Realtors used it as a selling line. Buyers chose the building specifically because it felt affordable, well-run, sensible. Frank and Eleanor Whitman believed it too. They had raised the tail end of their family there, paid off their unit by 60, and spent their retirement in the corner suite with the view of the ravine. Now 73 and 71, with Frank's knees failing and the stairs to the parking garage becoming an enemy, they had made the decision every couple eventually faces. It was time. They would sell the condo, take the equity they had been counting on for 2 decades, and move into an assisted living residence in Mississauga where Eleanor's sister already lived. The deposit on their new suite was already paid. The countdown had begun. What they didn't know, what almost no one in the building understood, was that those famous low fees had never been a gift. They had been a slow leak. For 19 years, successive boards had kept fees flat to stay popular, and to do that, they had quietly underfunded the reserve fund, the savings account every Ontario condo is legally required to maintain for major repairs. Then 2 things arrived in the same season. A new reserve fund study, priced against 2026 construction costs, revealed the building had saved barely a third of what it needed for the aging roof, the elevators, and the original plumbing. And the master insurance policy came up for renewal. The insurer reviewed that same study, saw the deferred maintenance and the thin reserve, and tripled the premium overnight. The board had no choice. To cover the shortfall, they levied a special assessment of $18,000 per unit. And the board president, a gentle retired teacher named David Okafor, who knew half the owners by their first names, did what any kind person would do. He looked at the fixed-income seniors and the young first-time buyers in his building, and he said the words that felt like mercy. "We won't make people pay the full $18,000 all at once. We'll let them spread it over 12 months. It was the most humane decision available to him. It was also the one that exposed everything. Because in Ontario, the document that controls whether a unit can be sold or financed is the status certificate, the legal snapshot a buyer's bank examines before approving any mortgage. An active special assessment being paid in installments remains disclosed on the status certificate for as long as it is outstanding. Before long, some buyers were told their lenders needed additional review before financing the building. Others faced extra underwriting, requests for more documentation, or financing that simply fell apart after the status certificate revealed the building's financial condition. To Frank and Eleanor, the outcome was the same. Buyers who wanted their home could no longer buy it, not because of anything they had done, because of the building's financial health. Frank and Eleanor knew none of this when they listed. The unit showed beautifully. Within a week, they accepted an offer from a young couple who loved the ravine view as much as they had. Frank shook the man's hand in the hallway. Eleanor started packing the kitchen. 48 hours before the deal was to firm up, it collapsed. The buyer's bank had pulled the status certificate and walked away. Frank's realtor was baffled, then concerned. They relisted. A second buyer came, offered, and disappeared the same way. Then a third. 3 accepted offers in 2 months, 3 financings dead on the same invisible reef, and the Whitmans still had no idea why. It was David Okafor himself who finally came to their door, certificate in hand, and explained what had happened. The installment plan hadn't created the problem. It had simply exposed a deeper one. Years of underfunding, rising insurance costs, and the resulting special assessment were now visible to anyone reviewing the status certificate. From that moment on, every sale became harder. Frank reached into his jacket. "I've got the check in my pocket," he said, pulling it out and holding it toward David. "Take it today, the whole $18,000. End this." David didn't take it. He looked at the check in Frank's hand, then at the old man's face, and his voice was barely above a whisper. "Frank, this isn't your assessment anymore. It's the building's. Your unit was never the flag. The whole corporation is the flag. Until the board closes the assessment out for everyone, the certificate stays marked. You paying yours changes nothing. The Whitmans were trapped. Their equity, the entire foundation of their retirement, was real on paper and worthless in practice. The only callers now were cash investors who had learned to target buildings that had become difficult to finance, offering 30 and 40% below value, knowing the sellers had nowhere else to turn. The deposit on the Mississauga residence sat at risk. Eleanor's sister kept asking when they were coming. On a gray Sunday, Frank stood at the corner window with the ravine view they had loved for 2 decades, the sold sign that had appeared and vanished 3 times, now folded in the recycling. Below him, the parking lot was full, the lobby warm, the hallways quiet and clean. From the outside, the building looked exactly like the safe, sensible, affordable place it had always advertised itself to be. That was the cruelty of it. Nothing visible had changed. And behind every lit window sat families who still believed they owned one of the safest places to live in Etobicoke, while it had quietly become one of the hardest places to leave.